Okay.
So I'm just going to do a quick introduction if you don't mind. Okay. Thank you very, very much for everybody who is joining us today. And we have a tremendous amount of interest in JP Morgan private banking. So thank you, Amori and Caroline Grace and Eugenie and Lauren, who have joined us from JP Morgan private banking. So Caroline Grace Williams is the recruiter for our area. So I'm going to have her start. What I want you to know right from the beginning is that this particular QR code is completely voluntary if you would like to let them know that you've attended. And if you prefer not to, that's fine as well. So with that, Caroline Grace, I'm going to ask you to start. And then you can put any questions in chat. And also, we're going to definitely open it up for people to ask questions. Okay.
Just real quick, I want to make sure I'm sharing my screen correctly. You can just see the slides, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Judy, are you going to record?
I'm sorry. Yes, Kathy?
Did you want to record?
We are on record, I believe.
Only if you're doing.
Sounds good.
Yes, I did it, Kath. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for attending our information session about the JP Morgan Private Bank. I apologize for my camera not being on. If you end up interning at JP Morgan, you will come to find we have very tight security. It's not letting me connect. So you'll get to hear my voice, and then at the end, you can connect on LinkedIn, and you can see my face when we connect. So like it was mentioned earlier, please scan this QR code so we know that you attended today. We'll send a follow-up email with the application links to some of the programs we're going to go over, so that way you have all the information in your inbox. So we'll go ahead and get started. So what is the private bank?
I'm sorry, one more quick reminder, please, everybody, please put yourself on mute while Caroline Grace is talking. We do hear a little chatter in the back. Okay, thank you. Go on, Caroline Grace.
Yeah, so what is the private bank? A lot of people are not familiar with this term or do not realize that the private bank is its own separate entity. So JP Morgan Chase & Co. as a company is divided into two sub-companies. You have Chase, which is the commercial bank and consumer and community bank. That's for regular Joes like you and me. I have a Chase account, that's where you have your checking, savings, credit card, all that good stuff. JP Morgan includes asset and wealth management. That's the division that the private bank is under, and then also the corporate investment bank, which is CIB investment banking. The private bank is for individuals who have a net worth of at least $5 million all the way up to $25 million. So if you are of that stature, you get a special bank. You don't use a regular bank. You get hands-on service, high-class service. You get an individual banker that is assigned to you, that works with you, works on your investments, your portfolios, and helps you make the best financial decisions. So we have 45 different locations within the U.S., and then also a couple of locations across the globe. We've got about $2 trillion in private bank client assets, which is pretty amazing. And we have been consistently ranked as the best private bank in the world, and most recently by Global Finance in 2021. So the reason we have so many offices is because it is based on client experience. So we want to make sure that each market is geared towards providing the best service and the most unique service to each of their clients. And that's why we have so many offices. Lucky for you guys, that's lots of locations where you can potentially work. And as you can see here, we have a map of where all of our offices are located. We have them sorted in this particular graphic by expansion offices and then also the USPB offices. And the acronym USPB stands for U.S. Private Bank. You'll hear that used a lot. So again, I just like this visual kind of explaining, what the private bank is. We have 1,800 advisors, 40,000 clients, $1.4 trillion in assets, and about just under $5 billion in revenue annually. So again, what does the private bank do and how do we do it? So anything from wealth planning, so looking at real estate, tax advantages, developing trusts to leave money to your children or to someone else in the family. That's wealth planning at a larger scale. There's also investing. Are you going to invest any of your money? Are you going to help that grow? How are you going to get involved with that? Banking, which is your day-to-day banking, like we talked about earlier with Chase, using your credit card, how much are you budgeting each month? And then lastly, this is kind of my favorite part of the private bank, is lending. Even people who have millions of dollars still take loans from the bank, whether that is aircraft lending, fine art, real estate, or even lending to buy a sports stadium or to invest in some type of larger company that it is owned by an individual. That actually falls under the private bank, which is pretty exciting. So you could be on a team that is working on projects like that. So if you want to get in the private bank, which obviously I'm partial, but I think the private bank is pretty exciting. We have a couple of programs that you can get involved in. Right now, we have our summer analyst program. The deadline is coming up on Sunday, and this is a great way to get your foot in the door and learn a lot about the industry. It is a 9-week internship, completely paid, starts in early June and ends in August. The first week is in New York City. We fly everybody to New York. You get to hear from senior leaders. You get to mingle with other interns. You get to mingle with business leaders. It's really, really exciting. And of course, there's some fun social events as well. As you can see, it says there's a boat cruise. It does end with a fun boat cruise around the New York Harbor. And then after that first week, you go to your prospective locations, one of those 45 locations of the map that we showed before, and you get real experience in the office. Even though you are a summer analyst, you are treated like a full-time first-year analyst, and you are expected to perform like a first-time analyst, which is great. You really just dive in deep. And depending on where you work, each market has different things that they specialize in. So you'll really get an experience unique to that market. Hopefully, by the end of the summer, you perform well and you receive a full-time offer to come back and be a first-time analyst, a first-year analyst. We actually have a newer program now where you're an analyst for 2 years. You can grow into a junior associate and then grow into a vice president and then a banker, investor, whatever you choose to do. But that's about a 5-year program now. So what's really great about JP Morgan is they have that growth path already worked out for you. All you have to do is show up, be consistent, and put in the work. Something I like to point out about the summer analyst program is that, yes, a financial background is helpful, but you learn a lot of the skills on the job. You have to take the serious exams, but this is not something they teach you in school, so we provide the study materials. What they look for in the interviews is good client skills, good soft skills, somebody who's able to handle clients, handle different analyst research tasks, and kind of do a little bit of everything. So the application for the summer internship, it is open now. It closes October 2nd. In order to apply, you have to be a graduate between December 2023 and June 2024. So as long as you're graduating within that time frame, you're eligible to apply. And that can be graduate students or undergrad students. You just have to fit in within the December to June graduation time frame. You'll submit an application on our career website. On the application, you're asked to rank your top 3 location preferences. So make sure you look at that map and you really look at the locations that are available and you decide where you can see yourself for the next 5 years. I know that's kind of hard to think because you're probably sitting here thinking, I'm only 21, how am I going to know? But the internship is designed to intern in that market and then come back as a first-year analyst and really start your career even from that first internship. So really think about where you can see yourself in the next 5 years. You'll then receive an invitation to do a higher view interview, which is a pre-recorded video interview. You'll have 2 chances to record each question. And I know it may feel kind of awkward doing a video interview, but it's super, super important. This is the pre-screen that the business reps watch to see if they want to bring you in for an interview. So this is super important. You've got to take it seriously, and your application is not considered complete unless you complete the hire view interview. So even if you apply on October 2nd, the hire view takes 24 to 48 hours to hit your inbox. So technically your application is not going to be done until October 4th or 5th, depending on when you get the hire view. So really make sure you're proactive about that. And then finally, if the business likes your resume, likes your hire view, they will invite you to do a super day. A super day interview is just basically a marathon of interviews. You usually speak with about 3 different business members for 30 minutes each. We invite you. They all take place on Zoom to accommodate everybody's schedules, and you would receive an invite via email. I will let you know our super day interviews will be taking place starting October 6th through October 25th. So it's a quick turnaround. So opportunities for the class of 2025. So if you are a sophomore, we have an opportunity for you with career.edu Academy. This is a really nice firm-wide educational program. You basically learn about all the different job opportunities at JP Morgan, not just asset and wealth management in the private bank. You learn about everything, and it's a really great crash course, totally free. Nice to just be updated on all of your options before you get into the time frame where you have to apply. And then we have the Advancing Black Pathways and Advancing Hispanics and Latinos Fellowship Programs. That's a 6-week kind of mini internship that takes place in one of our, we have about 5 locations where you really get a crash course on the financial industry. And then it's highly likely that you'll receive an offer to come back as a summer analyst. And then after that, come back as a full-time analyst. So really, really great program. So full-time applications are also open as well. I can send that link when I send the follow-up email. But again, same process, apply, hire view, rank your 3 locations. We'll be invited to a super day. The timeline for this one is a little bit later, but this is open to seniors. And then lastly, I just want to introduce my team. Here you go. You can see me now, even though I don't have my camera on. We all represent and cover different regions. So if you are interested in a region outside of the East, I specifically work on the East Coast. You would get to talk with one of my colleagues. They're all great, super fun, and they will help you through the recruiting process as well, but just wanted to familiarize everybody with the team. And with that, here's that fun QR code again. Please be sure to scan it. I will send a follow-up email with all this fun information, and I'm happy to take questions now. I hope that that was informative, and if there are any follow-up questions, please let me know.
Okay. Yeah, we have a lot of questions. Let's start with Timothy Correa. I believe you raised your hand, so Timothy, and then we'll get to the rest. Timothy, you want to?
Yeah, sure. Hi, hi, Caroline. Thank you so much for doing this today. That was
of course.
really informative. So I was just wondering, so you said you don't necessarily have to have a finance background. I'm sure a lot of us are finance students, but for the most part, but what are you really looking for on the resume when you are deciding who is going to come in for an interview?
Yes, that's a great question. So yes, financial knowledge is not, like you don't have to have a degree in finance or accounting or business. What they're really looking for is leadership skills, and then of course with the interview, soft skills and just a general knowledge of the financial market. So understanding what current events are happening, how they affect the market, because if you are an analyst, that's going to be part of your day-to-day job. You're going to be balancing, different people's portfolios and working with clients. So having a general understanding of the financial industry is super helpful. But again, they teach you a lot of that. So it's more that they're looking for somebody who is well-rounded and has kind of that eagerness to learn and to grow in the financial services industry. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course, that absolutely makes sense. Thank you so much.
Of course. And then in terms of resume, I mean, again, this is like a first-year job out of college, so they understand that you're not going to have like a 10-page resume. But I think just highlighting leadership skills and times that you were able, to lead a project or lead a different organization or club on campus. I think that's super important, but I think I'd really focus on the higher view interview because that's when the business gets to hear you speak and hear, you know, your knowledge straight from you.
Well, that's a little nerve-wracking, but thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I know nobody likes the higher view interview. I'm sorry, but it's just a part of our process.
Nicholas Siva, would you like to ask your question next?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you to everyone from JP who could be here today, and especially Caroline. I want to thank you for answering my message earlier today on LinkedIn. This actually is even better than sending an email over. But I did have the opportunity to attend some sessions last week, and I had a quick question in terms of reaching out to analysts who are outside of our alumni network. I've been having a little trouble getting people to, I don't know, I guess respond to messages just to be able to ask them some questions about their position, client side versus product side and whatnot. So do you have any recommendations for candidates in terms of what to include in messages to, you know, network within the locations we're applying to?
This is kind of a cheesy answer, but it is true. Everybody loves to talk about themselves. So allowing different business members the opportunity to talk about how they got into what they're doing, what was their career trajectory, how did they start working for JP Morgan? Were they a summer analyst? Did they start as a first year? Did they come from a different company? How did the other company compare? I mean, people love talking about themselves and their experience. So I think it's always easier when you frame questions like that.
That is so true. Thank you for that. And Nico Wright, you have a question?
Hey, Dina, thank you so much, Judy. Hi, Caroline. You look amazing on the photos.
Thank you.
My question is,
Okay.
for the top performers who receive the full-time offer, what's the percentage of top performers who usually get the full-time offer, and when do you give them that offer? Is it right after the summer ends, or you roll around to the graduation date?
Yeah, that's a great question. Percentage-wise, it's different every year. It just depends kind of on the business, what the trajectory is in terms of headcount. So there's not a specific number that we hit every year. It is based upon what the business needs in each market. So it's kind of hard to track that. And then different markets will have a smaller amount of interns, but we see a lot of growth. So then they have more openings. So then people end up moving. So that's kind of a hard question to give a straight answer to just because it's different every year. But if you are receiving a full-time offer, we let you know on the final day of the internship. And it is not a surprise. You have a mid-summer review with your manager where they will let you know if you're on track, if you're not on track, and what you can do to improve. And then you also have a final evaluation with your manager where they let you know their decision and why. And it's possible you could receive an offer within the market that you interned, or you could receive a recommendation to go to another market. So there's kind of a lot of different options, but you are not left in the dark. There's full transparency. You will know exactly how you're performing and what you need to do to make sure that you get the offer. We always say, if you want an offer and you make that known, there is space for you. They are going to work with you and make sure that you have that opportunity. And so it's all about communication. We are a growing bank. We love new talent. So as long as you express your interest and perform well, there is a spot.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Caroline.
Great. Okay, so the next question in chat is, are there any full-time positions for graduates with a master's degree starting from January of 2023?
Yes. So that would actually fall into the lateral team instead of the campus recruiting team. But if that person wants to send me an email, I'm going to put my email in the chat and I can get them connected with who they need to talk with.
Terrific. Somebody else put in a question in, does the hire view need to be completed by October 2nd?
So technically, no. However, my piece of advice would be to complete it as soon as possible because interviews start October 6th. And the later you complete the hire view, the less likely your application is going to show up as complete, and then your resume will not likely get pulled for the interviews because you're pushing the deadline. So I would just say sooner rather than later. You can do October 2nd, but really try to do it before.
Sure. And Caroline Grace, for those that are new to HireVue, can you just give us some taste? Are the questions very generic? Are they about soft skills? Or just give us like how many questions, just a little bit of information.
Yes. So the HireVue is essentially a phone screen. If you've applied for any other job before, it's like a recruiter calls you via phone screen and says, hey, why do you want this job? Tell me a little bit about your experience. Those are kind of the questions that you're going to encounter. The only awkward part is that it is a video. So you have to connect your camera. You get, I think, 2 minutes to answer each question, and you do get a time to retry a question if you mess up or something. But it's not anybody's favorite, but it gets the job done, and it's efficient for us. So just your research on the financial industry, why you want to be in the finance industry, and why you think you're a good fit for this position. Again, that's what they watch. That's what the business members watch to see if they want to bring you in for our virtual, quote, in-person interviews.
Okay, thank you. Michelle Nee, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, so I'm actually also pursuing like a language degree, and I'm just wondering if you work in one office, right? Like at one location, and you want to say move abroad, like how does that really work, and does that happen often within the company?
What language?
I'm studying German.
Oh, okay. So yes, I was going to say we do have 2 private bank programs that are based in America, but they do require you to be bilingual, but that's in Spanish or Mandarin, and that's the Global Private Bank LATAM, which is Spanish. You have to be fluent in Spanish, and then there's Global Private Bank Global Families Group, which you have to be fluent in Mandarin. And if you guys are interested in those, just a warning, the HireVue are in those languages. In terms of Germany, there is that option. However, we are broken up because there is a Frankfurt office. We are broken up into like the North America region, and then there's also a European region. And so it's not that mobility isn't guaranteed. It would just be something you would address after being here for like 2 years. So JP Morgan is very supportive of mobility and very supportive of growth, and they will definitely work with you. So if you come and you make that known, you will definitely be successful. But it's not going to be something where you're like, hey, I did my internship and now I want to work full-time in Frankfurt. It's a completely other system. It would have to be like, hey, I've showed my work here, I've done really well, and now I'd like to go abroad. And they would be supportive, but it would just be kind of a different path, if that makes sense.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Frank
of course.
Leva, do you want to ask your question?
Hi, thank you for doing the presentation, Caroline, and taking the time to do it. I just had one question. I just found out that the application deadline is coming up soon. Is it too late for me to apply? Because I know it's a very competitive application process.
No, it is not too late. It is not too late. Apply. The application was actually created to be done on a phone in less than 15 minutes. So the actual application is pretty simple. It's the HireVue part that is the most challenging. But once you complete your application, you receive that HireVue link 24 to 48 hours after your application. And then once you complete the HireVue, you're good to go.
Follow-up question, just because she was asking about the languages part. I'm fluent in Spanish. Would it be more? It would give me an advantage to apply for the other program you were speaking about?
For LATAM, yeah, it's LATAM, LATAM, as abbreviated Latin America. Yes, the locations for LATAM are New York, Houston, and Miami, and you're working with Latin American clients, but it's American-based, and yes, it is completely fluent in Spanish. So you can actually apply for both. You can apply for the U.S. private bank, and you can apply for LATAM if you would like.
Thank you so much for your advice.
Yep, just a heads up, the HireVue for LATAM is in Spanish, so don't be surprised.
Vicki Chen, do you want to ask your question?
Hi, Caroline.
Hi.
The career.edu academy gives an advantage to like 2024 internships. So I did a career.edu academy last year. So would that like apply for the 2023 summer internships?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's more for your benefit. We'll definitely see on your profile that you attended. So that's helpful to us to know that the resources are helpful and that you are obviously educated in kind of what all the different lines of businesses are. But it doesn't mean you're automatically going to receive an interview or any type of special treatment along the process. It's more of a resource tool for you. And while we're on this, I forgot to mention this as well. There's also a free resource tool called Forage, where you can complete an online virtual internship about the private bank, and it's a day in the life. So I will send that in a follow-up email to you, which is a really great tool just to kind of understand a little bit more about the industry and what your day-to-day responsibilities would be.
Terrific. There is a question in the chat that there are that the person sees other internships for next summer. Is it okay to apply for multiple positions?
Yes, yeah, you can apply to as many as you'd like. There have been candidates who have applied to 45. I do not recommend that because it makes it very difficult on our end. But, you know, pick 3 or 4 that are really interesting to you, and yes, you can apply to them. Each internship has a different timeline in terms of recruiting, and you cannot hold multiple offers. So just beware that the timelines may overlap and you would have to make a decision without pursuing another one or something. That might happen. But we'll always work with you to make sure that, you know, your first choice is accommodated. But yeah, you can apply to as many as you'd like.
Wonderful. Okay, Lynn Pan, I see you have your hand up. Would you like to ask a question?
I kind of hi Caroline. So I kind of have a quick question about kind of like JP Morgan's values. Like what are some of the things that JP Morgan's value as like compared to other private banks like your competitors and stuff like that?
Yes, that is a great question. There is a slide that I should have included in our slideshow here, but they really do value the sense of community and family. They're very hands-on with their clients. When you get to, so if you have $5 million up to $25 million, that's single coverage. Over $25 million is partner coverage. So you essentially have 2 people working on your portfolio versus 1. But I think that that's a great example of they really do take the time to have a unique approach to every client. Because I understand everybody has different goals, everybody has different amounts that they want to invest, different amounts they want to move on to their family. And so it is very client-based, and that dictates every decision that they made. I was actually in the Philadelphia office just this past week, which is another market that I support, and I was working there. And I love working in the office with bankers because you get to overhear some of their conversations. And I overheard a conversation with a banker talking about, you know, an investment that he would really encourage his client to do, and the client didn't want to move forward with it. And instead of fighting them or trying to explain to them why it would be best, they said, you know, I completely understand, and I want to respect your decision, and, you know, I'll touch base next week. And I just thought that that was a great kind of example of the way that they work. It's all about what the client wants, how they can meet the client, and how they can, you know, be of a great service. So it's kind of like a family. And then in terms of culture too, it's a great team. JP Morgan is a great company. They have great benefits, and I really enjoy working here. So not only do they treat their clients really well, they also have a great culture.
And I think in that respect, I think what we can also add is I think the firm is very big in terms of inclusion, diversity. So I work for the Greenwich office with my colleague here is on the line, Eugenie. And it's amazing. There's 120 people in this pretty small city, Greenwich, Connecticut, obviously. But you have people from Asia, from Latin America, many women, different age groups, so a lot of different backgrounds. And I think you see that across the firm, the respect that people have for one another, whether you're talking to somebody in Europe or somebody in Asia or somebody in the US. It's quite remarkable how a company with 265,000 people is able to have such a respectful culture. And you do not see that often. I mean, I've been working for a few years. I work for other big banks. And I would say JP Morgan there is quite remarkable in that respect.
That's great.
Thank you guys for the response.
Does anybody else have their hand up that I can't see, or any other questions? I just put the link to the job again in the chat. Some of you who joined later were having issues scrolling up to the top. And Amori, I see that you are on camera now. So thank you. And what I want to say about JP Morgan Private Banking, Amori and Eugenie and Caroline Grace and this group, do you want to talk a little bit about your interest in UConn? Because you've told me many times how interested you are. So Amori, do you want to speak a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, so the Greenwich office is very much involved with local universities so mostly in Connecticut, a little bit upstate New York, and obviously UConn is the university in Connecticut. So my son actually graduated from Storrs School of Business, so I'm a little bit biased, but I really love the culture, the diversity there, the enthusiasm, the proximity as well for our Greenwich office. And actually on October 12th, there is a career fair in Stamford, and I'm going to be there that afternoon. So if anybody wants to connect on a more personal level, happy to chat with anybody who has a follow-up question, except that, of course, it will be past the deadline that Caroline just mentioned. But short of that, I'm happy to meet anybody who wants to meet.
And to I don't have much to add from what I'm already, but on the topic of diversity, inclusion, and also why JP Morgan is a great place to work is well, for one, you can hear I have an accent. I'm from France. And for two, I've been working at JP Morgan for now 17 years. And I have to say that I'm so grateful for JP Morgan for having believed in me. For 17 years, I was married to them via visas and a green card. And I was finally able to get my citizenship. And without their, trust in my ability to, I guess, be a JP Morgan asset, I wouldn't be where I am. Now, aside from my little personal story, I've also, within the last 17 years, also around. I'm currently a regional team lead for our estates practice within the private bank. But I didn't start as a regional practice lead managing a team of over 10 people. I started as a private banking analyst, and I moved up the rank. From analyst, I moved then to the associates program, which is very similar to the analyst program, but at a different level. And then started on the banking side, and then transferred into the trust and estates business. So there's great mobility. And at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter where you're coming from. What matters is your commitment, your ethics, and your hard work. So this is, if I have to give you a piece of advice, working hard and being committed is really key to success in the type of environment we're working in.
Great point.
And
So a couple of other things. There are approximately 200 of these internships all over the United States. There are approximately, I believe, 10 to 15 in the Greenwich office, but as you saw on the map, there are lots of offices. I think that I also heard that in the Greenwich office, 2 of the summer interns were offered jobs for when they, UConn summer interns were offered jobs for when they graduate. So, you know, work hard, roll up your sleeves, do a good job, and have a good time. So, so I think that's it. Anything else, Caroline, Grace, Amore, what would you like to say?
Yeah, no, I was just want to leave you with one more sort of advice on when you do your interviews online or in person. The private bank in the banking world is about people. When you are dealing with institutional clients or trading floors or investment banking or commercial banking, you're dealing with businesses for the most part. It's more about money. The private banking world is about people, first and foremost. So I think this is really something you want to share your passion. Why do you want to join the private bank? Because it's about people. You like to solve people's problems. And I think that's also a test for yourself. If you feel this is, yeah, okay, that's fine. I like to solve people's problems, but you're not really passionate about it, maybe that's not the best job to go into the banking world. Maybe there's other activities in banking that are more rewarding for you intellectually. It does require a lot of patience. A lot of clients, private clients, do not know, you know, why a bond portfolio goes down when interest rates go up. But you have to have the patience to explain to them why this is. If you are super smart and you have no patience and you're like, don't you get it? I mean, this is the reason, then you're not going to be happy in that world. So just so that you know, it's a very particular part of the bank. And just ask yourself, do I want to do that all day long? Do I want to talk to people who may not know a lot? Do I have the patience and the desire to help them understand what the financial picture is? And do I want to do that, you know, for many years to come? Because hopefully when you join as an analyst, you move up the rank, as Eugenie and Caroline so well explained. So just wanted to leave you with that.
That's a great point. So the other thing I just want to mention, just really quick, for the Storrs and Hartford and Avery Point students that have joined us because they, JP Morgan will be at the Stanford Career Fair. But please, as one of you just said before, I think it was Nicholas Sebo who said before, there's lots of ways to reach out. Caroline Grace has put her email in here. You can connect with her on LinkedIn, and we give you this spotlight time so that you can stand out just as much as if you met them at a career fair. So for the Stanford and for Storrs students who want to take a drive down on October 12th, wonderful. For the rest of you, hopefully we've given you all the resources that you need to reach out to JP Morgan Chase and make yourself stand out besides the application and the hire view. So thank you everyone for being with us. I know we ran a little bit over. Caroline, Grace, Amore, Eugenie, thank you very much for joining us today at UConn. And with that, I am going to say thank you very much and have a nice afternoon. Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
I'll be sending a follow-up email. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
I have
you.
to
Thank you guys so much. Thank you. Thank you, Judy.
You are welcome. Thank you.
Okay.